shut down the government over the Affordable Care Act, Senators Ted Cruz and Mike Lee of Utah headlined a march Sunday to protest the closure of the national park. Well, we already talked about that, so we don't need to go into that. Finally, though, I wanted to bring this up. Yes, the federal government is a horrible intrusion in all our lives, and only it could keep its nose out of a state's business, right? Well, everyone knows that the national monuments are just there, right? The federal government doesn't actually do anything to operate them. Well, many of these states depend on tourism dollars from the national monuments. Excuse me. And they discovered in the no time flat how much they could count on the federal government to subsidize them, and were forced to admit it. The Obama administration's willingness to reopen the national parks shuttered by the government shutdown came with a big caveat. States must foot the bill with money they won't likely see again. Well, so far, Utah, Colorado, South Dakota, Arizona, and New York have jumped at the deal. Governors in other states were trying to gauge Friday what would be the bigger economic hit: paying to keep the parks operating or losing tourist money that flows when the scenic attractions are open. While South Dakota and several corporate donors worked out a deal with the National Park Service to reopen Mount Rushmore. Beginning today, Governor Dennis Daugaard said it will cost a little over $15,000 a day to pay the federal government to run the landmark in the Black Hills region. Well, isn't that exactly what conservatives want? Private donations to keep unessential things open, like monuments functioning? Just like we're supposed to rely on charities for our health care. Arizona officials said a deal reached Friday will mean visitors should be able to return to the Grand Canyon National Park on Saturday. In Utah, federal workers rushed to reopen 5 national parks for 10 days after the state sent $1.67 million to the U.S. government with the hope of saving its lucrative tourist season. Just over 400 national parks, recreation areas, and monuments, including such icons as the Grand Canyon and Yosemite National Park, have been closed since October 1st, of course, because of the partial government shutdown. Well, officials in some states were not happy about having to pay to have the parks reopen, but of course not. It's the federal government's job to pick up the tab for running those places. We're just supposed to reap the benefits of the money that pours into for our tourism industries. Of course, Arizona's Jan Brewer is at the head of the line at the feed trough. In Arizona, the Republican governor balked at spending about $112,000 a day for fully reopening the Grand Canyon. She said a partial reopening would be much cheaper while allowing tourists to visit and businesses to benefit. The daily cost difference is enormous, especially without assurances that Arizona will be reimbursed. Well, in the end, Arizona agreed to pay the Park Service over $500,000 to keep the Grand Canyon open for 7 days. The $93,000 a day is less than $112,000 the federal government had said was needed to keep the parks open. Our governor, the state of Missouri, is working on a proposal to reopen its national monuments, including the Gateway Arch. Nevada and Washington, however, will not. Wyoming has said it can't afford to bail out the federal government. Wyoming cannot bail out the federal government, and we cannot use the state money to do the work of the federal government. Meade spokesman Rennie McKay said, "Good one. Nice to know that the parasitic federal government is actually expected to do something, while blue states are ponying up just to keep their monuments and attractions open. It is well known that red states take more money from the federal government than they put in, while the reverse is true of blue states. So it's a bit of irony that they scream the loudest about the intrusion from the nanny state, and another bit of schadenfreude when they learn just how much they can count on." Okay. Freude, I remember, is German for friends, but I don't remember what Schaden is at the moment. I have to look that up to be sure. So, whether you like it or not, we do need the federal government in our lives. And if I may be so bold, I think for states that don't want to work with the federal government during the shutdown, aside from things like health care, like Medicare and Medicaid, and food stamp programs, I think other things like tourism, those industries should not be reimbursed. If you feel that strongly about it, I don't think our federal government should reimburse your sorry-ass state. If you're not willing to cooperate, to hell with you. That's the way I feel about it. Well, that's the way you feel about us. So let's carry that out. Let's save a little bit on the national debt. Let's save a few $1,000,000 by not reimbursing your state during this shutdown. See how you like that. Compensate. Adjust for it. Continue to seek private donations to keep your precious monuments open. If you can't take a little bloody nose, then it's not safe for you out here. And that concludes my Soapbox Bruce Williams segment for today. I have talked for an hour and 20 minutes, give or take. A new record. All right. Still to come on the program. Speaking of the president, we'll have the president's weekly radio address. I'll have that for you in just a moment, along with things you need to know on this Friday, the CBS World News Roundup, news headlines, the nationwide weather forecast, and a whole lot more. So, if I haven't sufficiently pissed you off enough yet, I'm glad you decided to stick around, because more of First Cup is on the way right after these messages. Stick around, my friends. I'm Joe Haffner from Studio 26.
Hello, folks. I'm here to talk about cancer. Now, I know about cancer. Matter of fact, I lost a lung and a couple of ribs learning about it. So you don't mind if I don't beat around the bush. I'm for straight talk with no chance of being misunderstood. The simple fact is that cancer can often be cured if it's detected and treated in time. And that's why a health checkup once a year is very important. It can give your doctor the chance to detect the disease long before you yourself would know about it. If it's there, you're giving yourself the best chance to lick it. Most likely the doctor's not going to find anything seriously wrong, and that clean bill of health will give you a lot of peace of mind. So call your doctor for an appointment. And talking for your American Cancer Society, I'd like to say we want to wipe out cancer in your lifetime. So fight cancer with a checkup and a check.
I'm Social Security Commissioner Michael Astrew.
And I'm Scott Gould, Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs.
Every 2 minutes, the U.S. government receives an identity theft complaint.
Don't let criminals take your money. Never give your Social Security number or bank account information to anyone unless you initiated contact.
Treasury, Social Security, VA, and other government agencies will never contact you by phone, email, or text for this information.
Watch your accounts carefully.
Don't be a victim. Visit stopfraud.gov or call 877-ID-THEFT to learn more.
Good morning. Over the past few days, I've met with Republicans and Democrats from both houses of Congress in an effort to reopen your government and remove the dangers of default from our economy. It's a positive development that House Republicans have agreed on the need to avoid the economic consequences of not meeting our country's commitments. Because once the debt ceiling is raised and the shutdown is over, there's a lot we can accomplish together. We've created 7.5 million new jobs in the past 3.5 years. Now let's create more. We've cut our deficits in half over the past 4 years. Now let's do it in a smarter, balanced way that lets us afford to invest in the things we need to grow. The truth is, there's a lot we can agree on. But one thing we have to agree on is that there's no good reason anyone should keep suffering through this shutdown. I met with some really innovative small business owners on Friday who've already lost contracts, lost customers, and put hiring on hold, because the pain of this Republican shutdown has trickled down to their bottom lines. It's hurting the very citizens that our government exists to serve. That's why a growing number of reasonable Republicans say it should end now. And it wouldn't be wise, as some suggest, to just kick the debt ceiling can down the road for a couple of months and flirt with the first ever intentional default right in the middle of the holiday shopping season. Because damage to America's sterling credit rating wouldn't just cause global markets to go haywire. It would become more expensive for everyone in America to borrow money. Students paying for college, newlyweds buying a home. It would amount to a new tax, a Republican default tax on every family and business in America. It doesn't have to be this way. It's not supposed to be this way. Manufacturing crises to extract massive concessions isn't how our democracy works, and we have to stop it. Politics is a battle of ideas, but you advance those ideas through elections and legislation, not extortion. I know you're frustrated by what you see in your nation's capital right now. But because it's easy to get lost in or give up on the political back and forth, I want you to remember this is not normal. Our government is closed for the first time in 17 years. A political party is risking default for the first time since the 1700s. This is not normal, and that's why we have to put a stop to it. Not only because it's dangerous, but because it saps everyone's faith in our extraordinary system of self-government, and that hurts us all. Whether it's the work of creating jobs, growing the economy, or getting our fiscal house in order for the long haul, we've got a lot of work to do, and constant brinksmanship doesn't let us do it. It inflicts real pain on real people. It creates spasms of uncertainty for business owners. It threatens our nation's credit and standing in the world. And the longer it goes on, the more frequently this brinksmanship is inflicted, the more we'll see markets react, businesses put off plans to spend and hire, and unemployment claims tick up. The hundreds of thousands of hard-working civil servants who go even longer without pay will worry that they won't be able to cover their bills, and that their own creditworthiness will be ruined for no good reason at all. And I want to thank all the neighbors and local business owners who've shown acts of kindness to these Americans who serve their country. I ask that same spirit of citizenship from lenders who do business with these folks, because they're being punished enough through no fault of their own. So let's pass a budget, put people back to work, and end this Republican shutdown. Let's pay our bills and prevent an economic shutdown. Then let's get back to the work of the American people, because there's so much else we should be focusing our energies on right now. We've got to create more jobs. We've got kids to educate. We've got an immigration system to fix. We've got more troops to bring home and a middle class to rebuild, an opportunity to restore. There's so much America has going for it in this new century. And as always, this country works better when we work together. Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Welcome back to Studio 26 on this Monday morning. And still to come, I'll have the CBS World News Roundup for you in a little bit, along with a look at the nationwide weather forecast, which includes the Kirksville, Missouri area weather forecast, and news headlines right around the corner. Right now, though, after Roseanne, we'll find out what's trending on things you need to know for this Monday. And to kind of preview that, checking over the news wires, and I've just learned that President Obama is expected to meet with congressional leaders at the White House at 3 o'clock Eastern Time this afternoon. And hopefully we'll get more work done on this impasse, possibly get it knocked out in the next couple of days, but we shall see. In the meantime, let's find out what's happening in the world here.
Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Don't tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. Don't tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really wanna zig a zig.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
And now some things you need to know as you head to your water cooler once again later this morning, early this afternoon on this Monday. And starting off with, today is, of course, Columbus Day. So if you happen to be at work today and after work, you know that it is Columbus Day. Columbus Day is a federal holiday, except in California, Hawaii, and Nevada. I did not know that. It's also Be Bald and Free Day. I hope that's bald. Maybe it's bold. Well, it says Be Bald and Free Day. And it's also Indigenous Peoples Day. Not indignant, indigenous. And true or false? Okay, think about this for a moment. Is this true or false, this statement I'm about to make? There's a garbage studies at the University of Arizona. The answer is true. Seems that the Tucson garbage project is an archaeological and sociological study instituted in 1973 by Dr. William Rathje in the city of Tucson in the south